Hi there, this is just a quick video. It's not a reading, as you'll see from the title. I'm just addressing some of the messages I get in emails. I'm trying to do it all in one video. So I'll address the negative ones first. Being told that I'm not connected to God, or I don't have faith in God because I believe in past lives. I used to think like that too. I did. We all get it instilled into us from an early age, don't we? If you do the X, Y, and Z wrong, you go to hell. If you do this right, you go to heaven. We only get one shot at this. That was my belief as well, until I had evidence of something completely different, which I will get to in a moment, which led me on my path. But I mean, I'm not going to go into my full story tonight, but I'm going to give my counter argument why past lives, why you should have an open mind about the past life thing. Oh, excuse me, and I will get to that very soon. And as for the people who like to send me Bible verses, only God can judge me, okay? Only God can judge me. And I pray that God has mercy on your souls, because you use his scripture to cast judgment on people you don't even know. You don't know anything about my life. You can't tell me what I believe in. You can't, you say that I don't connect with angels. And I beg to differ. And for the people that say, oh, there's no such thing as angels connecting with humans, one of the most important Bible verses, Luke 1, chapter 20, verse 22. Archangel Gabriel visits Mary to let her know she's about to give birth to the Christ child. So if you're telling me it's not possible for angels to communicate with humans, then you're condemning that part of the Bible. So I'd rethink that if I were you. And the last Bible quote for you all to consider is John 8, verse 6 to 8. I would suggest you read that before you come at me anymore. Thank you. So on that note, the one thing people constantly ask me is, when did I start to realise my gifts? When did I get into being able to hear things and use cards and things like that? Cards, literally, the last year. Literally last year. But my journey really started long before that. And I'm talking back in 1983. Probably before that, but this was the poignant moment for me, and this is the reason why I have probably so many orbs around me now. And so as a child, I loved animals, I loved nature. I just wanted to, every dog I saw, every cat, every rabbit, I just had to cuddle them, I had to pet them. But I had a really chronic breathing problem, and I ended up getting seizures every time I touched animals or was around too much nature. Not like grass and stuff, but like animals. And I would become really sick. I would take really bad temperature seizures, and I wouldn't be able to breathe properly. So I had asthmas and all asthmas. I had inhalers and things like that for asthma, and nebulizers and everything. So my entire childhood was kind of hampered with that a bit, because I had I just felt so connected to animals and I couldn't really touch them. But then I would do it anyway, because I would think, I'll take, if I can pat this dog, because I used to feel bad when animals come over to me and I'd ignore them, and I was like, no, I have to just give them a wee pat or acknowledge them or something. And then I'd become sick again, and it became a pattern. So there was one time, and my friend, if she's watching this, my best friend, I stayed at her house, and I remember my mum specifically saying to me, now stay away, because my friend had 2 cats and a beautiful dog, and my mum said, you can stay there, but please stay away from the pets, because you know how sick you'll get. Anyway, I woke up that morning and I had a cat sleeping on my chest, a cat sleeping here, and I could feel like my throat really tight. So that day, I was 8 years old, and that day When I went home, I just lay on the couch. I could barely move. I was so weak, I couldn't even hardly speak. Like, even talking about it now is kind of making my throat quiver again. And I just remember feeling weaker and weaker and weaker. And then till finally I heard my mum and dad whispering in the kitchen. I heard my mum saying, "We're going out, we can't leave it any longer. We need to phone an ambulance." And at that point I couldn't even string a word together because I couldn't even breathe like properly to say a word. So I was just kind of hearing what was going on. Anyway, I was in the back of an ambulance and we were an hour away from the nearest hospital, and my dad came in the back of the ambulance. And I remember it to this day. It was the most clear thing in the world. And we were driving in we were in the ambulance, and I just remember, you know, my dad was sitting there in the ambulance with, you know, blue light flashing, trying to get me to the hospital really quickly. And I had this kind of mask on, but by this point my breathing was so far gone. And I remember taking the mask off and trying to talk to my dad. and when I did, I just saw tears run down his face. And I thought, things must be really bad here, because I'd never seen my dad cry, really. And then just at that, I just remember wheezing out this big long, and it was so strange because I just remember giving it this big long sigh, and it felt like it was like draining all the air out my lungs. And at that point I thought, I just saw this, like, it was like a funnel of light open up. And I thought my dad's hand was coming towards my face. And this hand just came out and placed like the palm of the hand like this on my head. And it felt so warm and tingly. And I thought, why is my dad putting his hand there? Like, what's he trying to do? Is he trying to, you know, feel for my temperature or something? But then I saw my dad's hands were both sitting on his lap. Like, he was sitting with his hands in his lap. And at that point I thought, what is this? And I remember the vision so clearly. And that's the last thing I remember in the back of that ambulance. This big long, like, it was a huge big long sigh, and then the white light, and then the hand placed here on my head. So I woke up in the hospital, and I remember saying to the nurse, "Where's my dad?" And they said, "Oh, he went home yesterday morning." And it turns out I'd been sleeping for like 39 hours straight. Anyway, the moral to the story is, from that moment on in the back of the ambulance, all my seizures, my allergies to animals was gone. When I arrived home, when I finally got out of the hospital and went home, my allergies were all gone. I had no more allergies towards animals. I mean, I still got a bit breathless when I was running and stuff, just because I was out of shape, but not with animals. And I remember my mum and dad ended up getting me a dog like about a month later, and really it was a real turning point for me in my health as a child. But whatever happened that night in the back of that ambulance, from that moment on, I used to like ringing in my ears and stuff like that long before then, and I could feel there was movement around me. But from that moment on, for my entire life, now I had another 3 crazy experiences after that, which I should have died, and God saved me every single time. And oh, excuse me. So that's why I owe my life to God. And when I say that, you know, I know people always say Jesus is first in my life, but really that is the truth for me. I mean, whatever comes my way now, I'm always blessed. I'm always happy, but my connection to God has changed my life, and that's why there's so many orbs around me, because from that moment on in the back of that ambulance, it strengthened my connection with the divine, strengthened my connection with the angels. From that moment on, I always felt like I had them around me. And really, I went through a number of dark night of the souls and a number of awakenings since that night as well. So So that's what brought me to this point. And as I say, I'm not going to bore you with all the things that's been on, but I've just had a series of crazy events throughout my life. But really, I would not be here without God, because God has saved me and protected me my entire life. And even God even guided me towards working with dementia and Alzheimer's patients, because he knew I could understand them. And that's where I lead on to my point about why I believe in why I now speak about past life experiences, because the only thing that is containing this essence now, a lot of people refer to the soul as energy. I have a friend who hates when the soul is referred to as being energy, and which I guess is right, because it is more an essence. But the main thing is the soul is immortal. So when this thing here, you know, this fleshy, bony thing that our soul resides in, when that starts to die, our soul immediately moves on. Our soul does not die. So what can happen is, I know, and then people say, oh, but the soul doesn't get reincarnated. It does get reincarnated. And I can tell you, because when I went through my awakening, my soul started to experience all the visions of the different lives my soul has lived. And I know from other people's comments in the comment section that you experience similar things. But the main reason why, now I was a event organizer, I worked with celebrities, I was a content creator, I was a ghostwriter. I've really been a jack of all trades. And then after a dark night of the soul in 2012, I saw an advert in a job site they were looking for somebody to be a support worker for families, and also to work with the elderly, to help them, to give them hobbies and push them to do more to try and not deal with their dementia. And I thought, oh, well, I'm quite creative and I'm good with people, I may as well give that job a go. Now, I would never have went for that job before, but something in me told me that's a job that I'm going to enjoy. And I'd never thought about working with the elderly or with mental health or dementia before. So I knew it was all guided. That advert showed up to me for a reason, and I was supposed to go for it. And I remember sitting in the interview, and the manager said, what qualifications do you have working with mental health? None. Have you ever worked with the elderly before? No. Have you any experience working with dementia? Or no. Any experience with social care? No. I left that day, offered the job. She offered me the job there and then, and I started. And from there, I worked with a big medical organisation, and then I moved to a more private medical facility, but both equally rewarding. And it's purely because I started to understand that it's the thing that tethers our soul is our heart centre, and also up here, the motherboard. And I started to realise that people with dementia, because the brain starts to die, the soul becomes a bit confused. So the soul comes in and out, because it's like the heart's still beating, but up here, this sort of mother centre, the epicentre of the body, is starting to die. So I would start to understand when somebody would become wandered, it was because the soul sort of disappeared and came back again. And as soon as I figured that out, I started now to help them in ways, and I would go back and we would talk about stuff they did as children, and then we'd do all that, and that would help to bring them more compos mentis as well. So God works in very mysterious ways. He knew that I would have an understanding of the soul drifting in and out, and he understood that I would be able to, and people used to always say, you've got so much patience and you work with them so well. And it's just purely because I understood that the soul was having a way of, it would come in and out. And the more you spoke to the person about their past, the more the soul stayed in place, because it was clearly remembering situations. but when they were left to sit and, you know, like if an elderly person with dementia is left sitting staring out a window for a long period of time, then the soul just start to wander away because the brain is starting to die. And that is basically how I started working with patients with mental health. So there you go. And as I say, the tarot was only in the last year because I had to have a visual for the visions and the things that was coming to my mind. I had to have a visual to work with for myself as well. So that's all I can tell you. That's my story, and as I say, well, that's part of my story. But that was my first. So I felt guided to tell you that because somebody might resonate, somebody might have had a similar experience. But that is why I have so many orbs around me. So, and there we go. That's how I ended up in mental health as well. So thank you all, as I say, for the supporting my channel. I'm so truly grateful, and I still will reply to all the emails and things. This was me just trying to give an offload of answers in one go. So that's all I have to say tonight, and I look forward to seeing you later on today with another reading. But take care, and thank you for everything. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing. I'm truly grateful. Take care. Namaste.